two different types of people out there. The ones that's buying life versus investing in life. The people that's buying in life, number one, most of them are just uneducated in the space. So what we're doing right now, just having the conversation about it, is very important. And that's why I thank you, for everything that you're doing, because at the end of the day, just having a conversation about it is going to be a spark. This is how we normalize things. This is how things become, normal in our lives, and things that we come into the knowledge and the understanding, and then we come into the actionable items and things like that by just starting with the conversation and elaborating on the idea, right? So most people that just buy life, you know what I mean? They're just uneducated in the space, right?
Yeah.
They're emotional spenders and emotionally undisciplined, right? Because every time something bad happens, they take money that they really should be investing, right? And they go buy the car. They go get another car note. Oh, that new this out. I'm gonna go get that. You really don't need a new car. Like your car, 4 years old, you know what I mean? And it might not be the newest car out, but nothing is wrong with it. It's getting you from point A to point B. You know what I'm saying? If you keep it clean, it looks decent or whatever. Or if something you have a bad day at work, people do shop therapy. They get online and buy it all. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm guilty of it. A lot of people are guilty of this. I know this because I've been through all of this. You know what I mean? You're aware of something. You know how they say, look better, feel better, right? So you go get you some new stuff. You want to look better, go get your hair done, go do all this stuff, right? And so that becomes a vicious cycle. Just being emotionally undisciplined, being an emotional spender, and somebody who is you know what? Hold on one second. I got it. Hold on. You mind?
No, that's good.
Hold on one second.
Okay.
Milana, tell her to come here real quick. I'm gonna get Milan to come in here and break this down right quick. She good at it, I'm telling you. But when it comes to being a person that spends on your life and not understanding what you're actually doing is you're giving away your life. Right? Because what we're in essence trying to do here with investing is buy back our time to do more of the things that make us happy.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever that is. Like you may, like in a perfect world, right? Where you don't have bills and all of the extra responsibilities you have to do that you need money for, right? You might be doing some nonprofit and just giving back to the community. You might be teaching a class on campus, to the students and feeling like, whatever gift God gave you, right? You're using it to help others and you're using it to help others level up, right? But if you bog down at a cubicle all day and you at a 9 to 5 all day, or you're just doing a job, and this is not about job shaming. Yeah. I'm just saying that when you're spending the gambit of your time working every day, that's your primary commitment in life. You really don't have time to exercise anything else. Right. Come on, sweetheart. Come on in. Hey, guys.
Hello.
Let me introduce y'all to my daughter. It's my daughter, Milan. Say hi.
Hi. How are you?
So I was telling them how I teach you and Trey all the time about financial literacy, okay? And we talk about assets and liabilities. We talk about the difference between people that spend their money on life and the people that
invest.
And the people that invest, right? And so what is the difference between the people that spend their money on their lives? What's some of the main differences between the people that spend their money on lives and they don't invest?
So the main difference is that when someone that doesn't invest,
Mhm.
they get emotional and want to spend their money and get impatient,
Mhm.
and they don't have any education.
In the space, right? So basically, what she pointed out is that they don't have the education, which is what we're talking about. The education in the space. They are emotional spenders. You would say emotionally undisciplined, right? And then they get impatient with the process. So it is something that you have to be very patient, and you have to believe in the principles behind investing in order to do it. Um, there's been many people, including myself, who've had trepidation about, um, investing, and because this is your money, so you're like, should I put it here? Well, it might have worked for you, but I don't know if it's gonna work for me. Or I see where it did that for you, but just my luck, it probably won't do that for me, right? And that couldn't be farther from the truth. That is a manipulation that you're selling yourself, and it's just absolutely not true. You have to trust the process, and so this is what we're talking about. We're just talking about assets and liabilities a little bit. What's an asset?
An asset is something that makes you money.
That's right. And then what's a liability?
Something that you have to buy.
Yes, it costs you money. Right. Okay, babe. Thank you for being Daddy's big help.
Thank you for sharing with us. How old are you?
8.
Oh, good
Hey,
job. You did amazing.
yeah, man. My baby just made 8 on Valentine's Day. So happy belated.
Hey.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming to help Daddy with this, okay?
Okay.
I'll see you in a bit. I'll come tuck you in a minute. Thank you.
You can't get to our fort.
Huh?
You can't get to our fort.
I know. All right. Well, I'll come see you in a minute. So they built a fort, so I gotta try to get to the fort. But anyway, I wanted to bring her on because I did want people to see that this is not something I'm just talking about. This is something that I actually apply in my life. I teach my children this. This is very, very common conversation to us. When we talk about Disney Plus, and they say, "Oh, Dad, I want to get Disney Plus." I'm like, "Well, look, let's get some Disney Plus stock, okay, and then we'll get the subscription because that's way it's paying us." You know what I mean? If you want to go and get the PlayStation 5, Trey, that's fine. I'll buy you the PlayStation 5, but let's buy some Sony stock so that it's paying us. See, that's the difference between me buying life and a person that's buying life and not investing. Is that I'm getting my money back, even though I bought the system, and by the time that stock grows enough, I mean, it's paid me back for the system that I bought exponentially. I mean, it's paid me back for 100 PlayStations. You know what I mean? So yeah, man. I teach them in terms of that. I give your kids practical examples. They want to go to McDonald's. That's a publicly traded company. They want to go to Chick-fil-A. That is not a publicly traded company. But if they want to go, you can definitely make suggestions like, hey, let's go to Chipotle. Let's go to Qdoba. Let's go to places that are traded in the market where we can get money back for spending money at these places.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And so those are just practical examples of things that I deploy in my own life and with my children and my wife. And, again, it's not just about going to work and working hard and just buying what you want. It's about getting something back for what you spend. It's just like a credit card. You have a credit card, you're like, hey, man, I want to spend money on things that I would have bought with my debit card anyway. because I was gonna have to pay this anyway. But when I swipe my credit card, I get the Sky Miles. I build equity I'm getting points. It gives me something back that I can spend money on later that won't cost me my cash.
That's so good. So you've said a lot. I don't know if did you get through all the points that you wanted to say? Or do you want to add anything before?
Um, no, not really. I mean, I think that the last thing that I didn't talk about was promoting your entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, promoting the entrepreneurial spirit with your kids and helping your children develop their ideas now. So you talked a little bit about this at the shop, but I'm just going to expound upon it real quick. So what I meant is first of all, what our job as parents is to identify our kids' gifts, right? And so with that, we want to make sure that we promote them being entrepreneurs. We promote them owning things, and also we should not promote limitations on them and say, oh well, when you grow up or you're a kid, you can't do this or you can't do that because you're a kid. You can do it now. You promote it now. Hey, look, my daughter was telling me about this place that's in her mind right now, and it's called Moe's. And I was like, Moe's? Okay, super awesome idea. I was like, so tell me about this awesome idea that you have. And she was like, well, my idea is called Mall of Everything. And I was like, sounds a lot like, one of the biggest companies in the world right now. You know what I'm saying? And she came up with it all on her own and the whole nine. And my wife and I, we encourage that. We encourage them to come up with ideas. We tell them what they can do with the idea. We tell them how to research the idea, how to develop these things. And so, yeah. And so that was really the last point that I wanted to address in this. This is sort of a Pandora's box because all these things, really, we could have picked one of these topics and talked for 5 hours about it.
Right.
And I'm sorry to be speaking so much, but it's just, I just feel that, I love my people, man. You know what I mean? And when I say my people, I just mean humanity. I mean Black people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I love us, and I really want us to. I have a heart for us to do better.
Yeah.
On the whole, and when I'm explaining something in principle, I really just don't like to miss anything. But again, there's levels to everything, and I think this is sort of an introduction to a deeper and more broad conversation. But yeah, definitely want to identify your kids' gifts and ideas and help them to develop them and encourage their entrepreneurial spirit. So yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I feel like we need to have a part 2 so you can go further. But it was so much, and I think though everything you said was just a great foundation, just to get the conversation started, and you just sparked so many different interests because we're all diversified. Some people may have kind of had an idea of some things. So we talk about finance, you talk about investing. Many times we may just think about the stock market, but you kind of said, there's many ways to invest and to be, diversify our thoughts of investing and what does that look like. And I love that you included being an entrepreneur. Like I have not necessarily heard that before as being a tool of, investing. And like you said, investing in ourselves. And so I think you really have pointed on, talked about a lot of very important topics, and we left people with some things to really get the thing. I love the conversations you're having with your children and how you're sewing into them. I'm just thinking, man, think about where we were as children, and like you said, our parents did the best they could, but we don't know what other people have, where they started, so her starting point is so much different than somebody else who's never had a conversation about their family about money. And so,
Portia, listen, my family, I was an entrepreneur. I believed from the beginning in my ideas. My parents did not encourage that. I went to school, but they did not encourage me to monetize my own ideas. You know, the general consensus of the baby boomer generation was, look, you need to go to school, go to college, and get a what? Good job.
A good retirement benefit.
Hey, man, like, what do you, like, what, I mean, in essence, a lot of parents were dream killers. I was just rebellious in that regard. I'm the middle child, so nobody give a damn about me anyway. But I have all the talent, you feel me? And I had the brains and the power. And I said, man, look, I believe in me, and I'm gonna invest in me. You know what I mean? I believe in me, and I'm gonna invest in me, and I'm investing my ideas. And hey man, listen, it's easy to be an entrepreneur today. And when I say easy, I don't mean it's easy like literally. I mean that it's easy in the sense that the social norm, right? Everybody's an entrepreneur now. But I was an entrepreneur when it wasn't cool to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I was an entrepreneur when you was considered, sort of a glorified bum if you was an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? And now everybody's entrepreneur. I got my own woo woo woo. But I mean, that wasn't always the case. Like just a short time ago, like people did not believe so heavily in themselves, and people did not believe in the idea of entrepreneurs and monetizing their ideas. And so that was just something that was very personal to me. That I didn't never want to kill my children's dreams. I never wanted them to think they had an idea that couldn't be serviced. And so that's sort of the caveat coming from how you were asking me earlier about, what were some of the things in my upbringing that were there and promoted versus the things that weren't there and weren't promoted. How did they affect me? Well, that's one of the ideas that I transitioned to my parental experience, and was that I'm going to promote their ideas and help them develop those things, and sort of give them a push in the right direction with that.
That's amazing. Yeah, I absolutely love that. So yeah, thank you again for your time, for your wisdom, for pouring out, and just thank you for being so intentional. And again, one thing I do love to always highlight is Black men who I see doing amazing things, because we don't always get to hear and see that. We hear a different description and narrative, but to be able to see a Black male who takes teaching, educating, pouring into people, pouring into your kids, even the affection you're showing your daughter, all of that, I just definitely, love to see it and love to be able to have opportunities to promote and just share the fact that there are many Black men who are out there doing amazing things, and we don't get to hear and see enough of this side. And so I'm just really thankful
Thank you so much.
for you taking this time, and just like I said, it's just a blessing to be able to see Black families flourishing, to see Black families changing the narrative, Black families who are like you said, we're going to another level. And that's what my mom always told me: I want you to do better than what we did. And so that's what we want to do. We don't want to stay the same. We don't want to get worse. We want to take what they gave us and we want to do better. And also one last point you're saying about even our families and how it was kind of pushed to go to school and do that, but where that narrative comes from schools. So that's the only means of, and even in schools, I think that narrative of entrepreneurship, of the fact that there are different routes for people in life, that we need to begin to normalize that. We need to begin to discuss it. It happens in life, but those people through those years of formal education, a lot of times can feel beat up or feel misplaced because creatives don't necessarily get that space to really create. And so that's a whole nother conversation. I know. But I just had to, I feel about education. I had to throw that in there. That is part of where it comes from, is from us and how we had to fight to get into the educational system. We fight to get in there, and then that narrative locks you into a certain type of lifestyle and a certain path.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, there's so many layers to the academia conversation with that in terms of Black people. You have the creatives that didn't really have a place in the institutions, right? And then you have the entrepreneurs, another a subsection of people that didn't have a place in the institutions of higher learning, right? And then you had the elitism that came with institutions of higher learning. It's like, oh, I'm a college graduate. I have my master's, blah, blah, blah. And the shunning of other Black people who took on trades, who took on creative roles. But I tell people, man, we have to move away from a lot of those ideas as well. If you haven't, I long ago dispelled those things. I'm against those things. Because at the end of the day, no matter how much education you have, you don't need somebody to build your house. You don't need somebody to do your plumbing.
Right.
You don't need somebody to cut your hair. You're going to need, it doesn't matter how smart, everyone, it all comes back around. It all comes back around. And I hope you don't think these people that are really good at those jobs are cheap.
Right. And the reason this is important, because as you said, as far as investing in ourselves and our entrepreneurial spirit, we have to dispel some of those things that are locking us into that creates more fear for some people to step out there. Because if you have bought into the elitism or the thoughts that I'm better because I have this type of career, this type of job, I have this degree, but now you're feeling cool to do something entrepreneurial, and you may feel like this may not be as supported and glorified and highlighted, especially if it doesn't fall into a certain realm, because there are some things that people can do on their own and they still kind of feel like it falls into one of those levels. But not everything that you do, depending on how creative or whatever it is, it may not feel like that. And so, and one last thing I'll say about this with education is, education in schools is one form of education. People are learning all the time. So just because you have a degree does not mean that, and the person who doesn't mean that they're not highly educated. They learned information in a different way, in a different area. They did not get it from the school system. But all schools do is provide you a concentrated area to learn specific things, on a certain track to get a certain degree. But education does not have to happen in the four walls. It did not always happen in school buildings. And we have to stop limiting the people who are educated only are people who have degrees, or only people, and for those who are entrepreneurs in your heart, but you feel like because you don't have a degree that you're not qualified enough because you don't have the skill or knowledge, but you are learning every day. And in the information world, the necessity of a degree, outside of the fact that they use it to lock people in and out of things, the necessity of a degree is not as prevalent when we have as much access to information as we do this day and age. You can get any information you want to know. You can learn what you want to learn, and it does not have to happen in the school with someone with a degree.
Yeah, so just to emphasize what you're talking about there, I just call it's academics versus education. Right. Mm-hmm. And academics, you can be educated. You can be a person that got some education through the institutions of academics. Right. But that is academics versus education. Education is continual. You know what I'm saying? It's continuous. You know what I mean? There are doctors that hadn't opened a medical book since they got out of med school. You know what I'm saying? It sucks for their patients. You know what I mean? But, really good doctors, they study all the time. They take Sundays, they read all the new medicines, they read all the new breaking news on research and medical supplies and all different types of things. They're constantly learning. And so you're exactly right. I've always taken that approach. I've never necessarily referred to a person that had the degrees and things like that is necessarily educated. Because you've proven that you can pass some tests, right? And that you can get up and go to class and you can finish something you started. And those are all essentials, in terms of being an employee and having jobs, and then going up through the ladder in terms of the job market and things like that. So this is definitely not to be disrespectful to formal education. I believe it. I'm a product of formal education as well. We all are. And so my thing is that we have to move against some of the cancerous components that set us back, as Black people, period. You know what I mean? And the reason why I mentioned that specifically is because I've identified that as something that is a component to separate, to divide, to make someone feel inferior. A superiority complex, and all of those types of things. And so I brought it up just as sort of an additional or an aside of what we were talking about. And just another thing that we need to dispel. So. But yeah.
I think, like I said, because a lot of times people who do want to have that entrepreneurial spirit, they have not have been as successful. And I'm not saying people who are in the formal education or not, but a lot of times some of those people were not as successful in the school system. But it's not because something was wrong with them. It just may not have suited. Like your passion wasn't there, and so when not there, it didn't awaken what it needed to inside of you. There was nothing wrong with you. And so I have talked to so many people who have gifts, who have talents, who could excel in things to do, but they feel inferior and scared to step out there because they didn't have a particular degree. And we just want to dispel that. Whoever you are, whether you have a degree or not, because even if you have a degree, you can have a fear because you're so used to that structure, and you have to step out on faith and kind of be in this new territory. And so either side, we want you to be encouraged, and even anywhere in between. And like you said, it's not a pulling one up or down. It's just saying that no matter where you started, where your foundation lies, that you can be successful, that you can take this walk, that you can do it. And education never stops, so you always can learn. If you feel like you want to do something but you don't know enough, start learning, accessing information, having conversations. People will lead you and guide you. If you just start having the right conversations, you'll hear something. Let me look that up. Let me learn what this term means. Let me see what this is about. There's so many avenues to take courses online, inexpensive. There's free information online. So do something. Anything that you want to tell the people of a step that they can do right now today to, and I know you recommended a book. You've already given a lot of different steps. Is there any one last thing you want to tell people?
Start. Start. Like, get started. I can talk to you till you blue in the face about investing. Buy your first stock. It doesn't matter if it fails. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? The thing is, it's the education that you get when your money is invested. See, it's different when you're looking at something and you're not invested.
Right.
Okay? You can be objective as you want. You can have all these opinions. But when your money is invested, you learn different. That shit hit different. You know what I'm saying? Because... you know what I'm saying? It's yours. Now this is your baby now. And so my thing is to, if you haven't learned anything, from I'm sure you've learned a lot. But if anything stuck with you, don't just be like, I think that the information age we live in is a good thing and a bad thing, right? Because we sit there all day and we come into contact with such great information, right? And it's a stimulant, like it's a brain stimulant for us. You're like, I know that now. I get it. I understand that. Yeah, But to me, okay, so you feel smarter. Okay, now how did it help you though? It doesn't help you until you get started. And the fact of the matter is that we have so much information that comes across our desk all the time. On a daily basis, whether you're watching the Progress of Portia or any of these other many podcasts and platforms out here that are giving great information and sharing wisdom and tools for personal growth. But like I said, if you aren't starting, then okay, it's just bridges that lead to nowhere. My thing is just get started. Start looking at your money as a seed. Change the bad psychology. Start being more emotionally disciplined. Don't be a person that spends on your life. Be a person that invests in life, in your life. Buy your time back with your investments. Do things that make you that make you more happy and more fulfilling to you as a person with your free time. Normalize the conversation in your home with your children. Make sure that the family, it's a normal conversation to talk about stocks and stuff like that. It's a normal conversation that, my kids ride with me to go pick up rent, straight up. Because I want them to know exactly what we're doing. Yes, this is an asset for us. Why is it an asset? It's making us money.
Wow.
I want that to be the normal conversation. I don't want them to get to be 30 years old and they just not learning what an asset liability is.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so there's nothing wrong with being 30 and just learning that. What I'm saying is if you can change that trajectory for the next generation, start. Right. So you may not have the seed money today. You may be watching this and you may not have the seed money today to say, hey, I'm going to go invest in the stock, or I'm going to go buy some property, or I'm going to go start my own business, right? Mm-hmm. But you can start promoting the information and the idea in your home. That doesn't cost you anything.
Right.
And so my main thing that I implore you to do is to start.
Do you have a book you recommend for kids or something? Is there a book that y'all read or anything?
There's not a book that we read right now. Mm-hmm. I've read a bunch of books.
I mean, for your kids, you don't have any kids' books on money?
I don't have kids' books on money, but you know what? I do have an author in my house, and she's written her own book called "What Does Santa Claus Do in the Summertime?"
That's cool.
Super awesome book. So that'll be coming out later this year. Awesome. But I will put that on her table. Why? I think that's a great idea. Yeah. She's already a writer. She wants to do stuff like this as it is. And I think I'm going to introduce the idea of her just writing from her perspective, because from my perspective, it would sound like what we just talked about.
Right.
But you'd be surprised at the perspective that kids have and how they can make it make sense to other kids on their level. So perhaps that's something that we should look into.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you so much, Trey, for all the wisdom. We look forward to hopefully having you on again to have another discussion about finances. And thank you, everyone who tuned in today. Take the first step. He's given you many things that you can do today. Read a book, invest, start, do something. But take care.
Mm-hmm. Take care. Thank you.